You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel. Now it's time to talk to Ian live in the studio. Ian, as always, it's great to see you back here.
Thanks very much, Daniel, and good to see you too. I just thought what I'd do today, given the fact that you've got a couple of guests on, including myself, is I'll just give you an update what the Coastguard Rescue Service does, and then I'll pass on some safety advice, and we'll just talk a little bit around the incidents, if I may. But in terms of the Coastguard Volunteer Rescue Service, in essence what we do is we provide the UK's coastal search and rescue capability as part of Her Majesty's Coastguard, and it can operate separately or jointly with other emergency services and volunteer rescue organisations. Now, it consists of a team of volunteers like myself called Coastguard Rescue Teams, drawn from the local community, which are fully trained and equipped to carry out search and rescue operations around the UK coastline. In Sheppey we've got about 11 members. That forms part of what's called the North Kent sector, which is Herne Bay, Sheppey and Medway Coastguard, and in essence there are somewhere in the region of about 300 teams scattered across the coastline, the 10,500 mile coastline in the UK. And as a volunteer in one of the Coastguard rescue teams, we play a vital role in helping the Maritime and Coastguard Agency, which is the executive arms of Her Majesty's Coastguard, achieve its vision of being a world-class organisation that is committed to preventing loss of life, improving maritime safety and protecting the marine environment. Now, myself, as a member of the Coastguard Rescue Service, is called a Coastguard Rescue Officer, and it isn't, as I mentioned, entirely voluntary, and we can be called out by the Maritime Rescue Coordination Centre at any time of day or night, in all weathers, to respond to those in trouble or missing, to seek confirmation or further information of a report, or to participate in a joint response to an emergency. And just to give you an overview of the sort of things which we've been involved with, and certainly this year, we carry out rescues of those trapped or injured on cliffs or in mud, and we do provide a water rescue capability, a fast water rescue capability. We do carry out searches for missing persons, often in conjunction with the police. We carry out coastal and inshore surveillance and intelligence gathering on behalf of the Maritime and Coastguard Agency. We provide emergency mobile communications, including relay and remote radio site operation. We provide incident response and on-scene coordination as required by the Maritime Rescue Station, and we report the presence of pollution and other hazardous objects on the shore to our Rescue Coordination Centre, and we carry out duties required by the receiver of wreck. So if there's a whale or a porpoise that gets washed up, we have to deal with it. And as I say, we do assist local authorities and other emergency services when requested. For instance, we have done flood relief and missing persons services, and we do carry out an accident prevention and safety education activities which are targeted to specific individuals.
And I think, Ian, you're next going to cover the safety advice.
Yes, a few bits on safety. I mean, keeping safe at the coast. Our 5 key safety messages are: get trained, check the weather and tides, wear a life jacket, avoid alcohol, keep in touch. And now, if you actually follow those 5 key messages, there's a fair chance you'll stay alive on the water. I'll talk about a particular incident later on in this interview where someone didn't wear a life jacket and didn't avoid alcohol, and they nearly died this weekend. If it wasn't for the lifeboat, they would have drowned or died of hypothermia. There's no two ways about it. If you own a sailboat or motorboat, you must follow safety regulations if you own such a thing. There are different rules if you own a river or canal boat. Safety, you must also follow international safety regulations. You could be prosecuted if you're involved in a boating accident and you haven't followed the regulations. And this actually extends to personal watercraft, such as jet skis. They do come under this particular law. This means you must plan your voyage, carry a radar reflector, carry an illustrated table of recognised life-saving signals, help other craft if needed, and use distress signals properly. There are regulations to prevent collisions that you must do. You must have on your vessel navigation lights, shapes and sound signalling devices. You need to stay a safe distance away from other boats and diving boats flying the blue and white alpha flag, and you must always keep a good lookout to see what's coming your way. In terms of pollution, you must not drop oil or rubbish into the sea. If your boat is more than 12 metres long, you must also display a notice on board explaining how to get rid of rubbish properly. Safety equipment. If your boat is more than 13.7 metres long, you must carry life jackets, a life raft, flares and fire extinguishers. The specific details of what you need to carry depends on the size of your boat and how far you're travelling away from the coast. If you want to, you can actually register your boats with the UK Ship Register. There are a number of ways of doing that. One is called the Part 3 registration, which is a small ships register and allows you to prove your boat's nationality, and it costs about £25. And to be eligible, your boat must be less than 24 metres long, you must be a private individual, not a company, and you must live in the UK. There are other registrations, but those are in essence for larger vessels. But just to reiterate, get trained. You know, if you are going out to sea, you do need to understand weather and tides. You do need to understand your vessel. You do need to know what to do if you break down. You do need to have secondary ways of actually getting yourself to the shore. You do need to have a radio. You do need to have flares. You do need to wear a life jacket. You do need to avoid alcohol. I mean, that's absolutely deadly if you're inebriated and in charge of a vessel. And you do need to keep in touch with people. You need to let people know what you're doing and where you're going and what times you're expected. And these basic rules sometimes are flouted and people die as a result of it.
Ian, I think we're going to continue with safety advice.
Yeah, we're going to just focus on staying safe and having fun at the coast, but not getting carried away, if you pardon the expression. Simple rules and guidelines for a safe day out at the coast. We've still got some good weather, fortunately, in this August. So check the weather and tides. You can get this information from the web, coastal tourist information centres, holiday accommodation, local shops. Take note of the times for high and low tides, so if you explore any of the shorelines you can get back, particularly if the tide comes in. We do have 3 life-guarded beaches now on Sheppey. We have one at Sheerness, one at Minster and one at Laysdown. If you are going to go to the beach, I suggest you go to a life-guarded beach and follow the safety flags and advice of the lifeguards. You just need to be aware of tides and currents. You swim parallel to the shore. If you get caught in a strong current or a riptide, try to stay calm as you can. Raise your hand and shout for help, but it's always best to swim parallel to the shore. Inflatable boats and toys. Well, basically, as a Coastguard, we'd rather you didn't use inflatable dinghies, toys and lilos, because the slightest breeze can blow you out to sea in seconds. However, if you do use one, attach it via a rope to an adult who is in the sea with you. Make sure you are between the yellow and red flags on a life-guarded beach. Another one is don't jump. We have a lot of people still doing what's called tombstoning. Many people have either died or been seriously injured after jumping into the sea from high places such as cliffs, piers, groins and harbour walls. You just don't know what's lurking underneath the in the water, and you actually don't know what the depth of the water is, and it could be rather shallow. If you're doing cliff and coastal walking, wear sturdy footwears and clothing and take a mobile phone with you. If you take a dog, keep it on a lead at the top of the cliffs. Keep well away from cliff edges. Don't climb up or down them, and stick to marked pathways. Don't attempt to self-rescue people or pets from the cliff. All you got to do is, if you see anyone in trouble at the coast or anything on the cliffs or anything, dial 999 and ask for the Coastguard. But, always keep in touch. If you go to the beach with family or friends, arrange a meeting place in case you become separated. And if there is, if you do get any problems, again, just ring 999 and ask for the Coastguard.
And I think, Ian, we're going to cover some of the incidents that you've covered since you were last mayor.
I'll just cover 3 generic incidents, if I may. One was in what we called it ordnance. A lot of people call them bombs. We have had a couple of those this summer, but since I last met you. One was a 500-pounder which had to be blown up, and that caused quite a large plume, and the other was a small device which in essence was inert, and that was dredged up in a vessel at Riddham Dock. We've had a couple of missing persons. We've had an elderly gentleman who went missing, but fortunately was found safely, and a young boy who went missing, and again was found safe and well. And we've also had, for this year, we don't normally get this every year, but we've had 2 of these incidents this year, is people who arrive, want to launch their vessel on a trailer on the shore. They do so, they go out to sea, and they forget that the tide comes in and it immerses their car. And we've had 2 incidents where 2 4x4s have been fully... Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but, if you park your car at low water and then you go off and the tide comes in, there's a fair chance that your car's going to be submerged. Sorry. There's a fair chance that your car, or in these cases 2 4x4s, were actually underwater. And of course, when we went to one, it was quite... I would say it's terrible, really, because, someone lost a very brand new Freelander, but the boot opened up and all his shopping was floating around in the spare wheel. It was quite comical, really, because he launched his boat, and then as he launched his boat, he ran into his own vehicle, which was submerged, and then he fell out of the vessel itself, and then he went off, and then he broke down, and the lifeboat had to be called, and I think the police got involved in the end for his own safety when he managed to get to Laysdown. But such is life. It does happen, and people do need to realise there are tides, and if you do launch your vessel at low water, when you come back a few hours later, you will find your vehicle underwater. Now, just coming on to August's events, on the 1st of August in the early hours of the morning, we were tasked to the Queenborough All-Tide Landing to assist Sheerness Lifeboat in the recovery of a vessel which had dragged its anchor. The vessel had drifted from Sandgate Creek to Sheerness Docks. The vessel unfortunately struck another vessel in the berths. There were 3 persons on board. As a result of this striking the other vessel, 2 persons were injured when a window smashed as a result of the collision, and I think they were wandering around with no shoes on, and I think they put their feet on broken glass, and they were taken to the Medway Hospital for treatment. On the 9th, we had 2 incidents. One was a speedboat which had damaged its engine hydraulics after bumping across Queenborough Spit. Again, I've gone across it on low water, and we went to ensure they were okay and offer safety advice. And the second was to a windsurfer in difficulty off Barton's Point who was towed in. He was actually exhausted by a passing jet ski. On Saturday, the 15th of August at 4 p.m, we were requested by Kent Police to undertake a shoreline search, and this was part of this, the young boy missing, last seen at Jetty Road. There was 3 police vehicles in attendance, and the Whitstable lifeboat conducted a sea search. The boy was found safe in the local arcade. There was just one more incident that happened at the weekend. It happened around about midnight Saturday night and the early hours of Sunday morning. Both the Coastguard and the Sheerness lifeboat were tasked to Queenborough to recover 1 person in the water. What had happened was 2 inebriated men, that's basically drunk and posh word for being drunk, were rowing their tender from the All-Tide Landing at Queenborough to their vessel moored in the harbour. Now, unfortunately, the boat capsized and 1 person managed to get on the vessel, but the other fell into the water. Now, you're falling into the water at midnight. It's going to be cold, the water is, so you're going to suffer from cold water shock. So the first thing you're going to do is gasp for air, and you're going to take on water into your lungs. And the second thing is, if you're not wearing a life jacket, you're going to lower your chances of survival quite considerably. And this person wasn't wearing a life jacket. Now the person managed to cling on to drifted and cling on to a trot. That's where they put the vessels on, and another tender was launched to his aid, but they were unable to recover him. So the lifeboat was called, and he was recovered and brought back to the all-tide landing. Now his core body temperature was low. It actually was low by about 3 degrees Celsius. It'd gone down from 36 to about 33, which is quite significant. In other words, he was hypothermic, and that in again is life-threatening. He also took on water, so there was a possibility of what we call secondary drowning. So if he lies down at night and he's got water on the lungs, it will froth up and he will asphyxiate during his sleep. So we kept him in the ambulance for about 1.5 hours, but he insisted on discharging himself. At 3 a.m. he then went wandering off to try and wake someone up at a local public house, but I don't think he was successful, and he was last seen outside the hotel wrapped in a silver foil emergency blanket wandering around Queenborough. I mean, he discharged himself. He wasn't in any great danger by that stage, and he obviously got an emergency blanket on. And but we passed on safety advice. And again, two golden rules were broken there. One was it was late at night and people were drunk. They'd had a drink. So one of them, they weren't compos mentis. And the second one was fell into the water but didn't have a life jacket on. And to be honest with you, if there wasn't a lifeboat rescue service on scene, that individual would have died. He would have either drowned or he would have died of hypothermia. He would have actually died and through cold. So that's basically it.
And before you go, Ian, I was just hoping you'd let us know the answer to our brain teaser, and of course cover anything else you'd like to get.
Yeah, I think in terms of the brain teaser, I think that's all I wanted to say. The brain teaser is quite simple. What is a kill cord? It's something that you wrap around yourself, which then goes into the ignition or the engine, and when you actually fall out of a vessel, such as a speedboat, it pulls out as you fall out, and it kills the engine. And there's a lot of people who never use them, and they've lost limbs or been killed as a result of it. And it was only a couple of years ago, a dad was out with his family, his wife and 2 kids. He fell off the boat. It went round in circles, hit him on the head and killed him. Had he had a kill cord, as he fall off the vessel, it would have cut the engine. And you do get these people who fall off these speedboats, and you hear these people where they've had to try and get on board as a speedboat which is going round in circles, and it's all because they didn't wear a kill cord. And when I did my RYA powerboat qualification, if you don't wear your kill cord, it's an instant fail of the exam. If you forget to put it on, you will fail the exam. No matter how good you are with tides or anything, if you fail to put the kill cord on before you start the vessel's engine, you will fail the RYA powerboat qualification. That's about it, I think, Daniel, for this evening. Thank you very much for inviting me in, and I look forward to my next visit, which will be coming up towards winter time.
Yes, it will. As always, it's good to see you, and thank you very much once again for coming along.
My pleasure, thank you.
That's Ian Goodwin from the Sheppey Coastguard, and of course we'll be seeing him very, very soon for our next regular visit with the Sheppey Coastguard's